Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on authoring and viewing augmented reality with Yulio. My name is Nicole. I'm one of the client success specialists here at Yulio, and I'll be hosting today's session. So, our main objective of today's webinar is to give you an introduction to augmented reality and show you how simple it is to create AR models with Yulio and incorporate them into your VR projects. I will be covering a lot of information today, so if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to enter them in the question box, and I will answer them during the Q&A session at the Q&A period at the end of our session. I'm also going to be recording the full webinar today, and we'll send that to all registrants a little bit later, so if you miss something along the way, you can always watch it back at a later time. My contact details are also on the screen now. So if you'd like to follow up on today's webinar with a one-on-one training session, or if you just have any questions that come up later, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to help you. So here's our agenda for today's webinar. I'm going to start off with a brief introduction into what augmented reality is, where you might have already seen or used it, and how it can enhance your VR projects. Next, I'm going to go over how you can actually generate your own AR models with Yulio Jump directly from Revit, SketchUp, and CET. After that, I'll cover editing and customizing AR hotspots in your VR projects. And then I'll show you how to view and interact with AR straight from your Yulio VR projects. And then, like I said, we'll wrap up with a short Q&A period. So what is augmented reality or AR? AR essentially enables you to overlay digital content like 3D objects onto the real world using devices like smartphones, tablets, or mixed reality VR headsets. Some common examples of AR that you might have already experienced are Snapchat filters or shopping apps that allow you to try on eyewear before you purchase eyeglasses. So you might be wondering, okay, how can AR add to my VR projects? So when used in combination with VR, AR can help bridge that gap between virtual reality and physical reality. So you can use AR to elevate your VR presentations by enabling clients to engage more closely with specific design elements. AR can help identify potential errors or conflicts earlier in the design process, especially as it relates to space planning or functionality. And of course, this in turn can reduce time consuming and costly revisions. And it can bring confidence to your clients to know that some of those design elements that they loved in VR will actually work in their real space. So it's definitely a very valuable tool to have in your toolkit. And as you'll see shortly, it only requires a few extra steps on top of what you're already doing. So you'll see that in just a minute. So the easiest way to create AR assets for your Yulio VR projects is with the Yulio Jump plugin. If you're new to Yulio, Yulio Jump is our cloud-based rendering engine that is available through our plugin for Revit, SketchUp, and CET. If you're already using Yulio Jump to render the files you need for VR, you can also tag AR assets in your design before rendering with Yulio Jump. When you tag AR assets before rendering for VR, Yulio will export those assets during the rendering process and add them to your VR project as interactive hotspots. So it all takes place during the same rendering process. So you will need the Yulio plugin to render AR assets. If you don't yet have the Yulio plugin installed, you can download it from the CAD plugins page on our website. The plugin is free to install and use for anyone with an active Yulio license. So I'll show you the CAD plugins page on our website. Here's our website. To access this page, you can go to the Resources tab and then select CAD Plugins. So here are all of the download links for our different plugins for CET, SketchUp, and Revit. You'll also find here individual user guides uh, for the Yulio plugin for each CAD tool. So if you're just getting started with our plugin, you can download and reference these guides as you're getting started. And each user guide also includes a section that has instructions for AR tagging. Okay, now I'm going to walk you through how to actually render for AR with Yulio Jump. And we're going to go through SketchUp, Revit, and CET separately because the process does look a little bit different for each tool. So today I'm going to start with SketchUp. So I'll go ahead and open that program now. So across SketchUp, Revit, and CET, authoring and exporting assets with Yulio Jump starts with tagging the objects in your model. And you can do this by using Yulio's AR tagging convention. Now, like I said, there are some small differences in this process across SketchUp, Revit, and CET. So I'll demonstrate in SketchUp first and then show you the process for Revit and CET. So here's my SketchUp file that is ready to render for VR at this point. If you plan on tagging AR assets in your VR projects, I recommend AR be the final step in preparing your project for rendering. So with your SketchUp model open, to start the AR tagging process, you're going to navigate to and open the Tags tab in the default tray. So that's over here. From here, you'll select the plus icon to create a new AR tag. Next, with that new AR tag open, you're going to rename the tag using Yulio's AR tagging convention. For SketchUp, this is hashtag Yulio AR equals, and then the name of the label wrapped in quotations. So hashtag Yulio AR equals, and then your label can be anything. I usually just label whatever I'm tagging. So in this case, you're going to see that I'm tagging one of the kitchen chairs. So I'll just do kitchen chair wrapped in quotations. Don't forget that. And then you can just press enter and that will save to the bottom of your list here. Next, you're going to want to assign your item to the tag. Now, with Yulio, you can assign one single item to your tag, such as a chair, or a group of items. So let's say I wanted to assign the entire dining set here to my AR tag. I can do that and it will actually export as one AR model. This will also work if you have a desk and a chair combination that you want to export together, or a shelving system with multiple components. Regardless, to assign your item or items to the AR tag, you're going to scroll up on the default tray and open the Entity Info tab. Next, select the item or items in your model that you want to assign to the tag. So I'm going to select this kitchen chair. If I'm assigning a group of items under one tag, what I would do here is just hold down the control button on my keyboard and then select each item that I'm assigning. So once I select my item, I'm going to go back to this Entity Info tab. And then from the tag dropdown, I will assign it to the AR tag that I created. So here's that tag, hashtag Yulio AR equals kitchen chair. And that's it. That's all you have to do to tag AR in your model. If you created multiple scenes, so in this case, you can see that my project has multiple scenes here that I've created for VR. If you've done this, you don't have to worry about going to each scene to tag the AR asset in each scene. You don't have to do that. The final AR hotspots in your VR project will appear in all scenes that have clear visibility of the object. So it doesn't matter in which scene in SketchUp or Revit you tagged it in. Okay, if your project is ready to render, you would go ahead and open up the Yulio plugin. So that's just in my extensions tab here. So here's what that plugin looks like, and here are all of my render settings. I'm not going to go through each of these today. So if it is your first time using the plugin, I recommend, again, downloading that individual user guide that I mentioned earlier. And as a reminder, those are on the CAD plugins page of our website. Of course, if you have any questions, if you're new to Yulio, if it's your first time rendering, please feel free to reach out to me or any of my colleagues anytime, and we can help you with either finding those user guides or walking you through um, our render settings one-on-one. Okay, so when you're creating AR assets with Yulio Jump, the most important step here is to make sure that you've selected the Add AR Models setting from the render settings here. If you don't do this, they won't be created. So with that setting, with the plugin open, just make sure that this is checked off here. Okay, that's it. That's all for SketchUp. Your AR hotspots will be ready once your project is finished rendering and has uploaded to Yulio. And we'll take a look at what this looks like in your Yulio account a little bit later on. I do just also want to mention here that you can't create AR assets on their own with Yulio Jump. So that means you can't export just an AR asset. You do have to be rendering at least one VR scene, and have your AR model tagged in that scene in order to create AR assets with Yulio Jump. Okay, so now that we're done with SketchUp, I'm going to show you the process for AR tagging in Revit and CET, starting with Revit. Okay, so to save some time, I've included pre-recorded videos of these processes, and I'll just be talking over them as they play here. Okay, so here is a sample project open in Revit. And just like in SketchUp, you're going to tag the item or group of items in Revit that you want to create AR assets for. Again, you'll be using Yulio's AR tagging convention. So start by selecting the item or group of items you'd like to tag as your first AR asset. You'll see this person is going to select a group of items, which, like I said, when you select a group of items under and assign them to one tag, they'll be generated as one AR model. Now, once you've selected the items in your model that you want to tag, you're going to select the Create Group icon and input Yulio's AR tagging convention in the name field. So the tagging convention for Revit is the same as SketchUp, hashtag YulioAR equals, and then any label you want to name your AR asset wrapped in quotations. So here you'll see they're going to put hashtag YulioAR equals seating, wrapped in quotation marks. And then press OK, and that's it. If you want to create more assets in this model, or more AR assets in this model, you'll just repeat those steps. And like SketchUp, once you go to render with Yulio Jump, you'll just have to remember to select that Export AR Assets button from the render settings in the Yulio extension. Okay, lastly, we're going to go over tagging AR assets in CET. So again, here's my model open in CET. And like I said, at this point, the model would be ready to render for VR. We're kind of just adding in those AR assets as our final step. So with your model open, you're going to click on the Tools menu and then select Part Tagging. We recommend creating a new category here called AR so you can keep all of your AR tags in one place. And then next, they're going to select the new tag button and enter Yulio's AR tag in the label box. So Yulio's AR tag for CET is hashtag YulioAR plus the object name. So it's a little different from SketchUp and Revit. Next, you're going to assign the tag to an item in your drawing. I always use the tag individually option here, just as personal preference, but you can use any of those tagging tools. And then to tag individually, you're going to select that object and then select that option and then select the item or group of items in your drawing that you'd like to add to the tag. And then that's it. You can just exit out of the part tagging menu and proceed with rendering with Yulio. And again, you just want to remember to select that Add AR Models setting from the render settings before you go to render. All right, so now that we've gone through how to generate AR models through Yulio Jump for SketchUp, Revit, and CET, I'm going to go return to my Yulio account and show you what those AR models will actually look like in your project once the rendering process has completed. Okay, so here's that SketchUp project that I had opened earlier and I tagged an AR asset in. So when I open up the project to the project edit page, I'm going to navigate to the AR models tab, and that's where I can see the AR asset that I created. So as you can see, that chair model has been successfully uploaded. Now from this page, I can preview my model just by clicking on this thumbnail image here. So from here, I can just make sure my model looks good. And then I can exit out of that. To the right over here, this camera icon, what I can do here is actually adjust the opening position of my AR model. So let's say you created an AR element out of Yulio Jump, and then you come here to open it, and you notice that it's facing backwards, or it just is not in an ideal position. You can actually adjust that here. So I can move the chair into the position that I want, and then press apply. And then if you change that opening position, it doesn't affect anything on the client's end. Your client will still be able to move the object around as normal. It will just open to a more ideal position. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and open the hotspot editor to take a look at the actual AR hotspots inside my VR project and go over what kind of edits you can make to them from there. Oh, I just have to wait a minute because I just did that thumbnail image, so it just has to finish finalizing before I can open the hotspot editor. Okay, let's open a different project. Okay. So, like I mentioned earlier, when you author AR models with Yulio Jump, your AR hotspots will be generated and placed in your project automatically. So, if we look down here, this is obviously another project that I've tagged AR in before. If you look down at this table here, you'll notice that AR hotspot is on the table, and that's what it would look like straight out of Yulio Jump. So you'd come in here and you'd be able to see those hotspots already placed. Now, if you wanted to adjust the placement or the size of the hotspots generated by Yulio Jump, you can always come into the hotspot editor and make adjustments. So let's say you don't like where the AR hotspot is positioned on the item, you can just select it and then move it around anywhere you'd want. To edit a hotspot's properties, again, you can select the hotspot itself and then click on this pencil icon, and that will open up all of your Hotspots properties in this column on the left. From here, you can edit the title of the hotspot just by typing in this label box. And you can also turn the title on so that it actually shows in your scene. You can scroll down here and adjust the size of the hotspot by dragging this toggle. This tool is used for making the hotspot appear closer or further away in VR. And then you can also adjust the color of the hotspot with this paint tool. We have those standard colors are white and black, but you can open up the paint tool and select any color here. And then we also have an option to add an external link to your AR hotspots. So this is just a hyperlink that will appear whenever someone opens the hotspot preview. So for instance, if I want to link to the product page for this side table here, I can add that in here and my client can click on that link later to learn more about the product itself. Okay, so I'm just going to now um, go return to our project page just to show you a couple of more AR features that we have before we go ahead and look at our finalized AR hotspots and test them out. So let's return here. Let's try and go back to that original project and see if that has finished finalizing. Okay, it finished finalizing, so we can continue here. Something we've recently added here in the last year is our download and replace functions for AR. So by clicking on this cloud button here, you can actually now download the AR model to your files. This will download as a GLB file and you can upload it to any other Yulio project in your account. So let's say for whatever reason, you also want to add this chair here to a different project in your account that already exists. You can now download the file here and upload it to any other project in your account. Just note that when you do that, your AR hotspots won't be generated for you in that new project. If you upload an AR model manually to your project, you'll have to go into the hotspot editor for that project and add in those hotspots yourself. Now, for the replace function that's located to the left of the download button, uh, this tool is super helpful if you want to swap out an AR model in a project. So let's say you uploaded your AR object in Revit, SketchUp, or CET, and now you want to reflect those changes in Yulio. You would essentially re-render the VR scene with that AR asset, and then open that new project in your Yulio account, download the new AR model, and then go back to your original project and replace the model. When you use the replace function, a benefit of this is that all of your existing AR hotspots will remain intact, so you don't have to worry about updating those in the hotspot editor. All right, moving on. Next to the replace and download buttons, we also have a sharing function here. So that's this QR code button. And this allows you to share a direct link or QR code to the AR model itself. Now, this is actually a really great feature because it allows you to share the AR model with a client without sharing a full VR project with them. So, depending on your specific needs, maybe you have a client that doesn't require a full VR project, but you still want to add something unique to your standard PDF proposal. With this tool, you can simply copy this URL and paste it into your PDF or email it to them. Or let's say you were in earlier stages of the design process and you're not quite ready to share the full VR experience with them, but maybe you want approval on a desk combination or another element. You can just copy the URL to the AR model or download the QR code and share it in an email. So that's a really valuable tool that I think can be easily overlooked. So I definitely just wanted to highlight that here for you today. Okay, lastly, We have a sound button here, and this allows you to add audio to your AR model. So this audio will play when you're previewing the AR model from the browser window, which I'll show you in a minute. So you can add music here or even a voiceover if you wanted to provide some more information about the model when your client opens it. All right, now let's go ahead and open the VR project in browser mode, and I'll show you how your clients will actually activate those AR hotspots and interact with the AR model on their end. So I'm just going to click in this View in 360 button to open my project in browser mode. So, of course, we're in that browser mode experience right now because I'm viewing this project from my computer. When you click on an AR hotspot in browser mode from a laptop or a desktop, your experience will be restricted to this preview here that you see. Also, this is where that sound will come in. If you added sound to your AR model, this is where your client would hear that. So, in browser mode, what I can do is simply use my mouse to click and drag to rotate the object and view it in full 360. But this isn't actually true AR. So, to view the object in true AR from your desktop or your laptop, you'll need to click on this AR button at the bottom of your screen here. So, from here, this will open a QR code, and you or your client will be able to scan this with the camera app on your smartphone or tablet to open the AR model on that device. And they can view the model in true AR on that device. Um, Also, if you or your client has one of a newer MetaQuest headset, so a Pro, a 3, or a 3S, you can actually now scan the QR code with your headset from the Yulio app and view the AR model that way as well. So, regardless, once your AR model has opened on uh, a supported device, you'll be able to see that object as an overlay on your physical environment. So, if you haven't already tried it, now's your chance. If you want to test out AR and see what it looks like, you can go ahead and scan this QR code with your phone, tablet, or VR headset if you have one ready to go. When you're interacting with an AR model, you will just want to make sure that you have enough space around you to place the model. Otherwise, if you have furniture or other objects physically in the way, it might not function properly. So that's just something to keep in mind. So once you've scanned that QR code and opened the model, you should be able to position it, scale it. You can rotate it, lift it. If you're viewing from a smartphone or tablet, you'll even be able to walk around the model. So for your client, this just really helps them to have an accurate visual for how furniture, cabinets, equipment, really any other project element or object will function and fit in their real space. All right, so hopefully you were able to give that a try. Maybe you're still experimenting with that, but I'm going to wrap up our webinar here and return to my slides. So, thank you all for joining me today. I hope that you were able to learn a little bit more about creating AR models with Yulio to enhance your VR projects. Uh, Thank you for bearing with me with some of those difficulties I was having with my slides. I'll definitely have to update those for next time. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and submit them in the question box if you haven't already, and I will stick around for the next couple of minutes to answer those. And as a reminder, if you do have any questions later on that come up, or if you want to book an additional training session with me, my email's up on the screen, so please feel free to reach out, and I'll gladly work with you to set up a time to meet or answer any questions that you have. Okay, thanks again for joining me. Like I said, I'll stick around for a couple of minutes to answer any questions, but other than that, have a great rest of your week.